I'm tingling.
Hello everyone, today we got something really special in store for you.
That's right.
This is the first episode of a new little series that we're doing called Guilty Gaming. And here we're going to talk about games that are generally panned by most people, usually, that we actually kind of like. Jonno and I want to talk about a game that holds a lot of nostalgic value for us. A little game called King's Quest.
Now you might be telling yourself, hey, come on, who didn't enjoy King's Quest when they were growing up? You think this is special? You think that just because you lived it, then it's more real than my experiences? What kind of person think that way? Your parents would be just ashamed of you. And you'd be right. I mean, the series contains so much fantastic exploration and exceptional sense of wonder and abundance of humor, and in all honesty, is Sierra's most well-known and beloved franchise. When you play a King's Quest game, you know what you're getting. Top-notch point-and-click adventure.
But this video isn't about any of those. It's actually about the ugly duckling of the series. Where's the game box?
It's over here.
'Tis beyond my reach! King's Quest, Mask of Eternity.
We know some of you are probably cringing right about now. It's alright. You don't have to play it. We will. Anyway, time for a little bit of backstory. It's 1999 and little Jonno and JayBee are still playing with sticks in the woods behind their house. Never heard of no King's Quest. We were just a couple of crazy kids beating each other with sticks, if you weren't paying attention to the anecdote. We had a limited collection of PC games and didn't really know anybody that had any either, so they always intrigued us. But one day, Papa got a wild hair up his caboose and let us pick out a PC game, which happened to be King's Quest VIII Mask of Eternity. It was one of those quick decisions where you had to pick a game based on the box art because you didn't want to take too long lest the offer be revoked.
It was the first adult-oriented, story-driven, violent game we had ever played. By violence, we mean some sort of visible gore. It was no Grand Theft Auto, but it was still an introduction into darker territory.
This is what nightmares are made of.
While we do remember this game fondly, we won't let it prevent us from discussing what isn't good about it. Anyway, that's enough story time. Let's dive in, shall we?
The plot is as follows. The Mask of Eternity, the symbol of order in a chaotic universe, is shattered by a powerful evil. This places a curse upon the kingdom of Daventry, which happens to be where our protagonist resides. Connor, this strapping young lad, has been chosen by fate to find the lost pieces of the mask and restore peace to a land now shrouded in darkness. The curse, which has left everyone frozen in stone, won't lift until Connor has fulfilled his destiny.
Fortunately for the inhabitants of Daventry, the Chosen One has comically unwavering loyalty and conviction. Clearly, King Graham is in good hands.
I vow to you, my lord, with all my heart, that I will place myself in mortal jeopardy before giving in to the vile forces which hold you in thrall. I swear it.
To be honest, the character of Connor is hilarious at times. All of the violence changes him as your adventure progresses.
By whose authority, sir? I have no desire to die, spirit, as many a corpse will attest.
But for now, Connor's gonna stay on the straight and narrow, only stealing a couple times.
Controlling our hero can be a bit awkward at times. Considering that it is an old 3D adventure game for the PC, some funky controls are to be expected. Despite its age, things never really get out of hand though. Running and jumping can be a little finicky, but it's smooth for the most part. Yeah, look at how fast you can go! Speedrun streets.
Interacting with NPCs, enemies, and your environment all stay true to the age-old point-and-click motif. Whether it involves speaking with somebody, picking up objects, managing your inventory full of puzzle items and various potions, or selecting a monster you wish to slay, you'll be clicking a day away. All of these things complement the diversity of the worlds contained in Mask of Eternity. Whether they be friend or foe, different species appear in each world. Before we delve too deep into the specifics of these unique creatures, it's important to note the tone that this game conveys and how it impacts all of your interactions.
This game is dark. We're talking no hope, all is lost, evil has engulfed the land dark. The game begins with you beside your apparent beloved who's been cursed before your very eyes. No! Expecting a light-hearted intro level? Not quite. Instead, you're greeted with loneliness and despair in an abandoned town in the dark of night. And the music? Oh, let's just say, it'll chill your bones.
Remember, this is a world cursed and left to die in darkness. Though that may not be an original idea, the game does an undeniably solid job at reinforcing this threat and consistently illustrating it in every level. Whether you're trying to save a giant poison heart in the Dimension of Death, exploring the torture chamber of a swamp witch's tower, or exterminating a basilisk that torments the barren region, it's not that scary, it's just stuck in the ground. Your objectives always maintain a sense of desperation and urgency.
The dire condition that the world has fallen into has clearly taken its toll on those who have survived. Most interactions involve crestfallen citizens with their own share of problems that only the Chosen One can solve. And herein lies the crux of the game. All King's Quest games revolved around speaking with various colorful characters and using an assortment of items you had collected in order to progress. Aside from the elements of combat interspersed throughout, Mask of Eternity is no different. Unfortunately, it lacks the charm and humor that the previous games of the series contained, and that made solving puzzles so much fun for those who loved them. Now, watch as we solve a particularly joyless and convoluted puzzle that involves item combination.
I have an idea. Aha! Success! Aye, it worked. I hope to not break.
Sadly, this type of problem-solving rears its ugly head on more than one occasion. These puzzles are far too inconsistent, ranging from subtle and clever to needlessly complex and downright nonsensical. If you've ever dealt with a skull puzzle in the Dimension of Death, then you know what we're talking about. Thankfully, for the most part, a feeling of accomplishment does come with your successes.
Alright, it's about time we address what was added to the series with this particular installment. Combat! Taking into consideration the dark nature of Mask of Eternity, the addition of combat makes absolute sense despite not matching the spirit of its predecessors. Fighting works as follows. You draw your melee or ranged weapon and begin clicking as hard as you can on a bad guy until he dies. That's it. What? You expected something else? Nope. You just watch Connor flail at an enemy while they flail right back at him.
The only real strategy involved in battles revolves around your use of stat-altering potions and healing items. To put things simply, every fight is pretty much a war of attrition. There is a leveling system, but it scales with your progress, never allowing you to over-level or under-level. At least the sound effect for leveling is satisfaction incarnate. Enemies don't respawn and puzzles stay solved, so your sources for experience are finite. The only enjoyable reason for dispatching your foes is that every enemy has a unique death animation depending on the weapon you use that prevents the action from becoming stale.
But alas, all-consuming darkness is not the only problem facing Daventry. There are also game-breaking glitches. These can be found during transitions out of particular dialogues, where the player is simply stuck staring awkwardly at a character for all eternity. On rare occasions, the game might shut down for no apparent reason. Though irritating, these glitches can be prevented with a little patience. We found out that if you change some values before entering into the troublesome dialogue, you can bypass these glitches. You could do this by boosting your experience bar a little, receiving some damage, or using an item or two. You're welcome for the tip, by the way. Other than that, just save your progress frequently.
So, time to gather our thoughts. We've discussed the Mask of Eternity's tone and gameplay mechanics, both old and new. We're aware that this game was not successful in all aspects. In fact, in some it fails worse than Squall at being a likable character in Final Fantasy VIII. Creating 3D adventure games wasn't exactly a common practice for Sierra back then, which explains the unrefined yet serviceable combat as well as the previously mentioned glitches. Longtime fans of the King's Quest series hate Mask of Eternity for a plethora of reasons, most of which we've addressed in our attempt to show both sides of the argument for this game. One reason in particular can't go unnoticed.
Mask of Eternity effectively marked the death of the point-and-click old-school adventure. Often, when anything is new or changes, we as humans find ourselves fixated on what we were accustomed to and how wonderful it was, often glorifying the old as years go on while despising things that were too different. This has taken place in countless instances, where a beloved series took a chance, and while it wasn't critically panned, and fans didn't flat out hate everything about it at the time of its release, fast forward 10 or so years later and everyone voices their anger in 1,000 different ways. Now, we aren't trying to invalidate anybody's opinion, obviously everyone is entitled to one. What we're saying is that it's easy to climb on top of a dog pile and just sort of go along with the general consensus without fully analyzing it yourself.
So when judging King's Quest Mask of Eternity, we've got a recommendation. See that title? Just remove King's Quest. That's better. Now think of it as a standalone experience that has no relation to the series, which should be easy when they had almost nothing in common already. We may have focused quite a bit on the dark tone of this adventure, but that doesn't mean it's devoid of humor. However, most of these funny moments are included as secret bonus content. Here's a tip, just cause we like ya. To hear some of the most hilariously awkward dialogue, repeatedly use the Ice Scepter on the Sylph in the Dimension of Death. Here's just a little taste.
I'll just a I found the secret to the Mask of Eternity.
There's more where that came from. Wait a second. We're adults with important things to do. It's about time we finish up this little adventure. Let's make like a noun and verb. Or we could just complete the game.
Alright, we're in the realm of the sun, ready to return the Mask of Eternity to its former glory.
Smack that sassy boss! Smack him around for a minute or two and put an end to the tempest!
Yes! Time to celebrate our victory with a fantastic ending! My body is ready. Guess this is one of those, it's not about being rewarded, it's about the journey sorts of endings. Really, you want to go into this game without the thought that it's a King's Quest game. Forget the title that's slapped on there. It's just Mask of Eternity with a guy that's not related to any royalty that you're playing as.
Where games where there's always a danger, there's always an antagonist, there's always some impending evil, there's something like that. But in King's Quest Mask of Eternity, it's reflected in literally everything, in all your interactions, the music, the way the levels are designed, the way they look. The entire atmosphere is tailored to that idea of impending doom. So even though the idea isn't original, it is so convincing that it works.
Yes. So that's gonna wrap it up for us here on this episode of Guilty Gaming. Thank you for watching. I'm Jonno.
I'm JayBee.
This is AWSA. Saying goodbye. Hey, thanks for giving us a look. Hopefully you stick around and enjoy whatever we have in store. We really appreciate those who have been watching so far, by the way. It means a lot to us, so thank you. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Good day, ladies and gents.